Good afternoon to all of you. It's very difficult to be the last speaker because many people have spoken many of the issues, but what I'm going to address is from a totally different angle. Our chairman mentioned about our own systems and preparedness and mitigation of risks and coming out with proactive disaster management. One of the hats that I am wearing right now is basically the scientist and the teacher hat from the Indian Institute of Science. I belong to the High Performance Supercomputer Center. We do a lot of work in monsoon modeling, weather modeling, earthquake prediction, and various other aspects. Incidentally, one of my colleagues from the Center for Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences got the Shanti Sarup Bhatnagar Award last week for doing work in one of these areas. What is most important to me, according to me, is the data and the mathematical model. And the kind of algorithm that you come out with in order to do all these predictions. The computers, the communication, the network, the data center, everything comes much later. So unless you have a very effective and efficient mathematical model, unless you have a very accurate and authentic data, whatever you are trying to do is not going to be meaningful. Point number one. For you to achieve this, it is very important to ensure that you are in a position to have the best of brains, not only going for E school followed by B school, but taking up mathematics and physics. The major concern in our country today is that the best of brains are not coming for basic sciences. That's what we have been debating at the Institute of Science almost every day. For you to sustain the effort in mathematical modeling and coming out with all these kind of activities which you have started in the very right direction, it is important for you to inculcate the culture and discipline of research in basic sciences, and that is something which is paramount important for us to proceed further. Point number two, I actually wear the hat of a consultant and technology advisor to many of the organizations in designing disaster recovery centers, nearline sites and data centers. One of the speakers mentioned about IT for disaster preparedness and recovery. He also mentioned about the right data at the right time. I would like to add right data at the right time at the right place. For you to achieve this, you need to go for a data-centric approach. Ultimately, when you have thousands of locations of your organization connected across the country into a single data center, your corporate office or head office is not the primary important activity for you. It is the data center which is holding all the customer data. So we need to ensure very high availability and fault tolerance. I want to make one point very clearly here. There is a fault that occurs in your IT. The fault results in a small error. Unattended, the error manifests itself into larger and larger proportions and finally fails. It is your ability to arrest this between the occurrence of the fault and the eventual failure by appropriate processes that you put in place. That is where you talk about highly available, fault-tolerant, reconfigurable and self-healing architectures which you need to put in place. One of the things that we have done is in the airport infrastructure of the GMR International Airport at Hyderabad, as well as what we are doing currently is in the Delhi International Airport at Delhi. The most important thing here is basically to look at the fact that when you build solutions, you have to build with high levels of redundancy. When I talked to GMR on day one for the GMR Hyderabad Airport, he said, what I want is that I don't want the systems here to fail. For example, in a networking scenario, if you have to build something like that, in our country, you need to look at, path redundancy, route redundancy, equipment redundancy, and service provider redundancy. For example, a service provider may fail, and you may have to actually use another service provider to put through all your transactions into the system. So building redundancy, building high availability is something which becomes very, very important to you. Our secretary mentioned about the fact of the false alarm that you have in all your systems. One of the aspects is false alarm. Another aspect is the misdetection. So you have to work between the probability of false alarm and probability of misdetection to arrive at a constant figure in order to achieve the goals that you are looking for in all these kind of modeling solutions. Ultimately, technology can take you only thus far and no further. What is important to you is not only the product, the process, and more importantly, the people. We need to have technically competent and capable people within the organization who belong to the organization to drive all these kind of large, complex infrastructure on a 24/7/365 basis. Thank you, one and all.